Colin McRae cars for sale. Pepsi Experience JLR job in Shannon. Renault Group has been sold. Bad day for Goodyear. China car sales are down, and Mahle improve EV range. Hello, my name is Paul Callan, and welcome to this week's MotorZen News. People who may or may not be interested in rallying still know the name Colin McRae. He was British Open Championship he won the British Open Championship in 1991 and 1992, and he became World Rally Champion in 1995. He was the youngest ever World Rally Champion then at the age of 27, and he held that record up until last year when it was beaten by Kelly Rofen in the Toyota at 22 years of age. Well, some of Colin's cars are up for sale at the end of the month in Silverstone auctions. Sunbeam TI, Mark II Escort, and the Subaru Legacy that he won one of those British Open Championships with. And there's something for everybody's budget here. The Sunbeam, they reckon, will do 80 to 100,000 pounds. Escort will do 125 to 150. And if you want something a bit more pricey, they reckon the Legacy is going to do something like from 380 to 450. But incredible, to use the pun, legacy there in those vehicles, and going for sale at Silverstone auctions at the end of the month. Pepsi Experience, the Pepsi Experience with Tesla, and the Pepsi Experience with Tesla semi-trucks in California. Semi-trucks, we would call them tractor units or trucks here. In California, Pepsi are using 21 semis from Tesla, electric trucks. They increased the capacity in their charging facility at the base to 3 megawatts of power. They can charge at 750 kilowatts, and they can recharge from 0 to 80 in 45 minutes. Now, these trucks, majority of them are only doing 100 miles a day, but they have got 3 what they call long haul trucks that are doing 250 to 450 a day, fully loaded. And one of the interesting pieces of information that's coming out from this is that Tesla are using 2 drive axles, or 2 motors, one on one axle and one on the other, but they're serving different purposes. One axle is a high torque axle to get the vehicle up to speed, and the other axle is a cruising and efficiency axle. So interesting, the combination they're using on the truck. Pepsi have worked out that they are using 1.7 kilowatt hours per mile, so running very efficiently for them, and they're going to add more of these Tesla trucks to the fleet, so we're going to be watching how they perform over the next couple of months. People may or may not be aware that down in Shannon, JLR, Jaguar Land Rover, have a software development centre, and they're looking to recruit a senior back-end engineer. Now, people of my generation might say, back-end engineer, that's a lad that would work on the diff. No, it's a software engineer that's going to work on autonomous and next gen, because that's the type of stuff they do down in Shannon. Very interesting to realise that so much of this high-tech stuff on Jaguar Land Rovers is done in that software development centre in Shannon. But if that was your area and you'd like to work for Jaguar, senior back-end engineer, are looking to recruit one at the moment. Renault Group has sold its operation to the owners of Nissan Importation in Ireland. Same company also owns a retail group. It's a company called Cedar Ireland Automotive Limited, and it's owned by a Kuwaiti-based family. Interesting story about Renault was that Renault was bought by Bill Cullen in 1986 for £1. And I think Renault France took over the concession sometime around 09 or 10. So it's Renault France now that's selling on the concession to this private company, this Kuwaiti-based family who own the consortium. And but interestingly, Bill Cullen bought it in 86 for £1. I think the reason it was £1 was it was carrying a lot of debts, and Bill Cullen took it over and run it very successfully from 1986 to 09 or 10. A sad story here, and just goes to show that people do take risks to produce safety in road vehicles. 2 Goodyear employees were killed last week in Nuremberg Ring. they were testing for Goodyear tires, testing it on a Porsche. So just goes to show the risks that people take in order to produce safe products. There's no details of the accident. It's being investigated by German police at the moment. Bosch and e-bikes. Again, you'd associate Bosch with auto vehicles, cars, trucks, but a very significant element of business for Bosch now is e-bikes. They've actually turned it into $1 billion business. It comes out of their Bosch Mobility division in America. And all they do is supply parts for motors, batteries and displays. But it's a very, very significant area of business, and it's growing fast for Bosch. And they're saying the next thing on the e-bikes is connectivity. So again, with a company like Bosch in there, we're going to probably see more and more evolutions on the e-bikes also. Chinese car market has stopped growing. Years ago, this market was growing at 20-30%. It's been 2.6% down last month and 2.9% down the month before that. So you would think that this means serious problems for the Chinese auto market, but they're compensating for it in a big way with their exports. Their exports were up 63% for the first half of this year. And on a world scale, there was 7.2 million EVs sold for the first 6 months of the year, and 61% of those were built in China. It's quite astounding how much of the EV vehicle market China own. Now, one of the top sellers in China is Tesla, so we're including Teslas that are built in China, that have been exported out of China to other places in the world. But after that, you've got BYD, you've got SAIC, which is Maximus, brought into Ireland and UK by Harris. Next up, you've got Volkswagen, and then you've got Geely Volvo. So those are all the big sellers, because again, some of Volkswagen product in China is exported. But again, 61% of the global EV market, they're really getting their feet under the table on that one. And a brand name that every time I read about them or get some press releases about them is Mahle. I always think, wow, that name is so associated to pistons and rings and hard metal components of engines. And it's just so interesting to read about how they're transitioning into EV. And one of the things they're after doing now is increasing the range of EV vehicles. And you'd say, but they don't even make batteries. How can they do that? Well, they've developed a new cooling system for the batteries. They've developed cooling plates which cause the coolant to run in different directions. And they reckon they've increased the cooling performance by 10% and use 15% less material. So it's interesting, all the time when we look at this, we keep seeing companies that were so associated to internal combustion engines, 130 years of development of internal combustion engines, and a company like Mahle now, which is day by day, week by week, improving the performance of electric vehicles. Okay, that's all we got for you this week. And again, we have got a nice steady flow of people watching us on YouTube and watching us on LinkedIn, and really appreciate the thumbs up that we get there. It keeps the morale up and keeps us going, even though we enjoy doing what we're doing. So give us a thumbs up, give us the subscription, like, comment and subscribe if you can. Thanks a lot. See you next week. Bye.